Welcome to Mzansi Unicorns. My name is Teddy Kuzwayo and I'll be your host on the show. The show really that's about showcasing South African talent, businessmen, entrepreneurs across all types of industries. Our very first episode will be having a conversation with Mr. Veli Ngubane. Veli, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
I was going to speak about your entire CV, but I think it'll take too long. It would take the whole show to actually present it.
That makes me sound old now. I've just been doing a lot.
Yeah. Veli, you've done some really incredible things in the media space. And when I was thinking about this show, it's the very, very first episode, Mzansi Unicorns. You're the very first person I thought about. I don't know why. I still don't know why. But in any case, thank you for accepting the invitation.
Hopefully this episode will explain.
Exactly.
After this, if you still don't know why, then it's going to be an issue.
But in any case, I consider you an icon. I consider you a mentor. For me, I've known you for a very long time. But most importantly, I consider you a unicorn in your own right. And we had to come up with a show and a platform where we speak about success stories. Success stories by South Africans, success stories by our very own people, but more than that, success stories about the impact globally that you've had on a global stage. Because South Africans, I believe, are some of the most resilient, some of the most talented, and some of the most diverse entrepreneurs and business people out there. And it's really very important for us to ensure that we share our stories. And so
I'm really honored.
In your case,
I'm honored to be the first guest. I'm honored that you consider me in that light. I'm humbled. And thank you for the invite.
Yeah. But tell us more about you. Who is Veli Ngubane?
Recently, he's a father.
Okay.
Aliko. Recently, he's a husband.
Okay.
But I think what people know Veli is for the business and the entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So I've been an entrepreneur officially since I was 16. But looking back at my history, I've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
In the township where I grew up in Gwelezane, we used to play soccer on the street. The one day I was like, why don't we play for money?
Okay.
So you bring all your tax money,
we
bring, and then we play.
Yeah.
It's Shinchu 5, Pelu 10. So 5 goals, you swap sides.
Okay.
Whoever reaches 10 first takes the whole money.
Okay.
So looking at it, that was entrepreneurship. So
and did you win, by the way?
How's
your soccer skills?
They were good at the time, when I was younger. So for me, that was the birth of entrepreneurship, seeking opportunities and seeing, and it grew from that, We grew up in 2 economies. We're the first generation that lived in distinct economies where you woke up in the township and you went to another economy, which were so-called Model C schools. Yeah. And I saw that as 2 markets.
Yeah.
So I used to take a product, which was chips called Yobo, to the Model C schools.
Yeah.
And I used to bring back like spin tops.
Okay.
So again, my understanding of markets and how to take advantage of them it developed at a very early age. So if you ask who Veli Ngubane is, he is a man from KwaMhlabyaLingana, eManguze, born of single mom uThulile, raised by my uncles and my family. But a love of business, a love of Africa, a love of progress. So that's really what the years that I've been a business person. So funny, I've only worked for 8 months in my life, and I've only gone for 1 job interview.
And was that the job?
Yeah, that was the job.
Okay. So you have 100% hit rate.
That was the job. Yeah, no. So when I moved from Cape Town, you'd know I was in entertainment in Cape Town. I used to throw gigs, and again,
No, listen, that throwing of gigs, it inspired me because I was the next generation that started throwing gigs. But I always knew you were going places because you drove a gold BMW. There's one thing about driving a BMW, but to drive a gold one, I mean, how's that for confidence?
Yeah. You know, it's seeing the opportunities.
Yeah.
Students want to party.
Yeah.
And you know their calendar. And I think you know with their pressure points, you know when exams are finishing. So I used to coordinate my entertainment around the student calendar, which was very unique from outside promoters.
Yeah.
So when I moved to Joburg, I knew that I was going to be in advertising.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to learn how an agency works. So the reason why I applied for that job was just to figure out. I mean, I think everyone there thought I was working because I kept on moving from department. They were like, "This boy is so ambitious."
Within 8 months,
you know, he comes there at 6 o'clock, leaves at 9 o'clock, and is very interested in every single department.
Yeah.
But it was my training course, and founding Avatar. A lot of the principles and a lot of the lessons. From that 8 months is something that we started with in our foundational phase.
Yeah. But I want to go back actually because I remember you as a lawyer. You did law, right? At varsity.
Yeah.
And then I think you went to red and yellow. So how was that transition? Like what made you pick advertising?
So I had to do law.
Okay. To impress the parents, obviously. You're not going to go to varsity and say that you're doing advertising. We're like, how? No. And then you want to do TV things.
Not even TV things. And there's always an example. And that's why I like speaking in podcasts like this and in public, because usually there's an example of Uyambona Thabo. He did marketing.
Yes.
Look, he doesn't work now.
Yeah.
But look at Veli. He did law. He's working now. So I think in the generation of parents that we had, there was no example. And I love it when kids say, "Look at Avatar. Look at Z and Veli. It works, ma. We want to do this." And that's why we welcome a lot of youth. So in the transition, so I finish with my BSOC Sci at UCT.
Yeah.
I own a nightclub, and I've got...
You owned a nightclub?
Yeah, Pata Pata Lounge.
You owned it?
Yeah, we ended up owning
Really?
it. Yeah, we started throwing gigs, but we were so successful. The owner gave us a partnership, and we actually ended up running the nightclub.
Wow, okay, I didn't know that.
Which was quite interesting.
Okay.
So we would go from Thursday to Sunday.
Okay.
Right? And I had Monday to Wednesday, where I was kind of idle.
Okay.
Right. And I joined advertising by sheer mistake.
Yeah.
Because what my intention was to learn more about marketing so I can market my events more.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're sitting with a friend. They were like, "There's this wonderful school called Red and Yellow, which you can go and learn the principles of marketing."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I quickly learned just, going to Mzoli's and handing out flyers with a branded car wasn't going to grow any significance. And we were venturing into branded events and bigger events, almost like festival-like events.
Yes, yeah.
So I knew that it needed a deeper sophistication.
Yeah.
So I went to Red and Yellow.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with marketing.
Okay.
I just saw it as a superpower because I had... loved moving people to do something. And this was now an art in making people do something, in making people choose something, in making people like something. So I found it to be very beneficial. And in the last classes, I didn't attend a lot of classes because I was doing a lot of things.
Driving around in your car.
Because we're doing a lot of concepts, we're doing a lot of restaurant concepts, and we're busy. And the one time I went and there was an agency, and I usually didn't attend a lot of these agency things, because I wasn't interested in working.
Yeah.
And I went the one day. It was, I see it as more of a calling that day, because it defined and changed my path in advertising. And on that day, there was Island Davenport, a small startup agency.
Yes. Yeah.
Funnily enough, that had BMW.
Really?
So that was the first interest of working. So they had BMW, Apple, and Investec. And funnily enough, I still drive a BMW. So no.
He changed colors.
Karma, no. It's a white one.
Yeah,
it's an adult version.
Now your father, your husband.
No, can't be frightening people at crash.
You don't want to be that guy.
No. And it's Liz, yeah. So when they presented the agency, it was 4 or 5 years old. Mm-hmm. They had these wonderful clients, and
this was before you started Avatar.
This is before I started Avatar.
That 8-month gig.
Yeah. So this is the transition between me owning a nightclub, wanting to learn more about advertising. Yeah. Going to do my postgrad to get the skill. Yes. Falling in love with advertising. Yeah. And then being introduced to this agency. Okay. And they were only Joburg based. Yes. So I remember at that time, when agencies like that present and they're wonderful, a lot of students kind of like crowd and ask questions. Yeah. So I waited back and I was like, "Hey, how are you guys getting to the airport? And have you eaten?" Yeah. And they said, no, I don't even think there was Uber significantly. Oh, we're going to get a cab or whatever. So I'm like, no, I'll take you guys. Yeah. So take them and they're like, oh, okay, this interesting student. So I take them out for lunch. Yeah. And then I tell them the whole story. And that was the interview. Okay. And they said, what are you doing? What are your plans? And at the time, I needed to move to Joburg. And I said to them, let me come up to Joburg and let's see what we can do.
They were on the M1, I think.
They moved offices a bit because they grew. I mean, they ended up having Vodacom. They ended up having South African tourism. Okay. Interestingly, we've just finished a global ad for tourism.
Oh, really?
And it started there. So in terms of just the introduction to tourism. Yeah. So I move up to Joburg. Okay. And I work for 8 months. Yeah. And that's where this that's where the agency started.
So what made you start the agency? What made you start Avatar? At what point did you feel you're ready?
Well, I always knew that I didn't want to be employed.
Okay.
And I'd been self-employed for a long time. Yeah. Having even built companies that I sold on, like your Kensani Africa, which was even before Varsity. So I knew that I wanted to build something because I understood the power of building something. I think I was convinced even more in that 8 months seeing the landscape because I can get pretty obsessive. Yeah. When I look into an industry, you can see the gap. As per our earlier conversation, it's a market. You come into it and you say, what is missing? And black ownership, black insight was the missing factor. So it was pretty obvious that there was a space for a black-owned agency to prosper. Right, and that really was the base of why we started Avatar. It was to see the opportunity to market for Africans by Africans, and that's what we've been building for the last 14 years. Yeah. So later on, I met my business partner of 14 years now, Z. Now, he added an even bigger vision to that,
Is he also in advertising?
So Z is in advertising, but his background is IT, which was quite interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Very
So
interesting.
at the time that I met Z, he was running a company called Crazy Boys. At the early bits of like making websites, CMSs, and stuff like that. So there was still, it wasn't even a digital agency then. So when we met, we knew that digital will end up interrupting
Yeah.
creativity. And we knew that the agency of the future would be integrated. Now, he's part of World Economic Forum Young Global Leaders. So he had an opportunity to go to Harvard. When he came back, he said, this is where the agency model is. And because as South Africa, we kind of lagged behind, we started that integrated agency with his expertise in digital and my expertise in creativity.
It was a match made in heaven.
And hence the name Avatar. So an avatar is a representation of self online.
Oh, really? Okay. So
so
there's
that
nothing to do with the movie?
No. We actually thought we wouldn't get the name. When we applied for the name, there were people like, there's no way.
Really?
Yeah,
it's not like Avatar hasn't found you yet.
Yeah, it's like, there's no way you'll get the name Avatar. So when we got it, it was quite interesting. So we started this integrated black-owned agency, which we knew the market didn't have. And even now, there's very, very few. I mean, we are the largest. But over the years, there's been other black-owned agencies. Yes. But at the time when we started, there were very, very few.
Yeah.
Okay. So I always knew that.
And like black isn't like black, not like BE black. You know, you get these other agencies that'll say level 1.
Really like black owned. I mean when you
black owned, black managed.
When you walk into the offices,
you know it.
Not the certificate. You've been to my offices. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean only black people work for you.
No, of course,
But you soon realize who's in charge in those agencies. Just by the feel and what you see and what they represent. So that was always an ambition. It was a miracle and it was a blessing meeting someone as crazy and as ambitious, because we set out to take over the industry in terms of building a significant player. So for the last 14 years, we've truly been investing a lot of our time in not only building Avatar, but building the Eminent Group, which now owns Avatar and 6 other agencies. So we're building an agency group. So if you know about advertising, it's mostly foreign owned by these international groups.
The handful.
Which is a handful. And the one time we were not on the pitch list for quite a significant client, which we thought we would have a good chance at. And when we inquired, I think we had just won a Financial Mail ad agency of the year. So we thought to do it, be obvious that we'd be invited to that pitch, and it wasn't. And when we sat with the CMO, they said, no, the only reason you weren't is because you're not part of a group. Right.
Okay.
And at the time, we were getting pursued by a number of groups to be purchased. And we realized that there was value in independence. So if we started this independent black-owned agency, why couldn't we start an agency group still owned by us? And that has proven to be a very significant move, not only in South Africa, but the continent. So at the moment, there's 6 agencies under the group, under various disciplines, and we are growing that group across the continent, even in the partnerships that we have. Because you'd be surprised that there are no black-owned marketing and advertising and media groups on the continent. There's single agencies and people grow these agencies. But when you have bigger clients, you need a network of agencies. And that's what I guess the next frontier is for us.
Yeah. And I mean, tell me about your ambitions on the continent itself, because a lot of businesses are very comfortable in South Africa. And really part of the reason why we are giving entrepreneurs this platform is to actually understand their ambitions beyond the borders of South Africa. And at what point do you feel you are now ready to take it to the next level? And what's been the impact? How successful have you been?
So it's all based on our strategy of liberating African creativity for the world. We soon understood that if we've got the insights and the creatives that understand South Africa and now Africa, brands would have a better chance of connecting with the market, right? So, and we understood that brands, and what is happening a lot is that Chinese brands are coming through us for the African continent, because as they grow, the multinationals haven't built their agencies to serve Africa. I mean, they could kind of be anyway, you know, and their models aren't almost aware of some of the dynamics that you need to be successful in operating in the continent. So to that end, our first global client actually was South African Airways.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So South African Airways gave us all their routes, and that was our first test of working with multiple markets. And that proof point showed us that it's possible to operate a global company from South Africa. You know, I always thought you needed to be in New York or London to do it. So that was the first proof point that you can be based here, but have enough partnerships and enough scale to do that. And over the years, that has attracted a lot of positivity and success in terms of the clients that we have that are global in outlook. So what we look for is clients that, even when based here, have got expansion and global ambition. So we aim to grow with them in those markets. And the history of success around that, especially, I mean, we launched Techno globally. Techno, it's a cell phone brand from China.
Okay.
Funnily enough, on the continent, it's actually bigger than Apple and Samsung on the continent. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Not that big in South Africa, but if you travel the continent, Techno is everywhere.
Really?
So
smartphone.
It's a smartphone.
Okay. It's I mean, how are you attracting all these Chinese companies?
I think it's the strategy.
Do you have Chinese ownership in your?
No. So, no. We still own the company, Z and I. And I think a lot of people have either tried to buy in or buy out.
Of course.
And because we've enjoyed working with each other and have no really ambition to dilute our ownership, at least for now, we still have it in us to make those decisions to grow the company. So the Chinese factor, I think it's from that success of SAA.
Okay.
Right, because we also launched in China, and I think it's the success of Techno, and I think it's the strategy to appoint local agencies that understand rather than multinationals that might not understand the dynamics of the continent and the country. I did say recently we just had the privilege of launching the global ad for South African tourism, which was like national duty. It was really special for me to be able, and funnily enough, worked with my first and only boss.
Really?
Philip Island.
Your 8 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who now,
the island and Island Davenport.
Yeah, who now has joined us and serves as our global chief creative.
Okay.
So the global ambition has always been there, and that's why we've got a global creative based in the UK.
You have an office
we haven't got an office yet. So I believe that before you open an office, you must have enough clients, to justify it. And I think we always hesitant to open offices until we'd rather go for partnerships first before we open physical offices. I think in the long run you can make a lot of mistakes. So we've had to manage our growth. So the partnership model with most of our clients that we have even across the continent, we work with various partners across the continent, and I think the partnership model stabilizes until we offer critical mass enough to actually require offices. I don't think in this digital world you kind of do, because that's sometimes an overhead and an understanding that you might not be prepared for at the time, unless you've got a big enough client. So at the moment we are in Cape Town, Durban and Joburg, and we're establishing our base and our growth there. But if you ask about the ambition of growth outside the continent, is part of our strategy. We are based on making sure that we are representative of African creativity, not for only Africans, but to the world. We want to be able to take our brands out of the borders and represent them continentally and globally, which we are doing with a lot of our clients, which is a great privilege.
I mean, which has been your most successful campaign, or if you are allowed to share, even maybe industry, which has been your most impactful industry?
I think banking. I think it's well known that we've got the Absa account across the continent.
So your story matters then.
Yes. So launching Your Story Matters was significant, not only in just our industry, but multiple industry. To launch a campaign, change a positioning of a company, and launch in so many countries across the continent, in a very complex,
even globally.
In a very complex.
Open an office in China, I believe.
It's a very complex business to understand, and its marketing needs are very complex. So to successfully launch and maintain that has been a career highlight, as you saw even before I was in and some of the opportunities that it's opened up are really significant. So we've launched a lot of successful campaigns, some really dear to my heart, even some of our CSI projects very dear to my heart. But I think in terms of the biggest impact for the company has been the Absa win. I think the tourism global launch comes in a close second, and I know a lot of my clients will be watching this. Every client for me is significant. We decided very early not to have a big or a small client. Because we believe every client can grow. And we've grown with some clients, over the years. We've grown with a lot of clients, your likes of Unilever, your likes of Isuzu. So for me, if you give love and care to each client, and I guess that's why I get so busy. I try to not make the growth of the company felt by some of our clients. Sometimes very difficult, but we've built up a strong enough team to show that love as we grow. Because sometimes you can grow too fast. And the clients that, we've had Unilever for years, and I was very considerate that they don't feel that we've won a much bigger client, because of the history that we have with them.
Without dismissing any of your other clients, I think it's interesting you mention that your biggest impact has been Absa. And the reason I say that is your agency's been around 14 years. In 2000, when Gibbs was launched, one of South Africa's greatest entrepreneurs, in my mind, the founder and CEO of Liberty, made a very famous speech. One of the most impactful speeches I've ever come across. And one of the lines, he says, overnight success takes 15 years. Think about that.
Just about right.
Just about right. Overnight success. And in fact, take any business.
It's true.
15 years is almost like that benchmark.
It's true, and that's why I'm always so grateful, and I pay homage to the clients that built it up to that. Because there were a lot of clients, there were a lot of people that believed in us, even when we were really, really small, and it took all those clients to get to that win, which was a shift change, but it does take a long time. And it does take, entrepreneurship is not easy. It takes a lot of sacrifice. It takes a lot of support from the people around you, because it's not easy. And I mean, I think our biggest test just as entrepreneurs was during COVID.
Yeah.
I remember the president announcing that there's going to be lockdown.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on a call probably for like 3-4 hours with my business partner after that, strategizing for each client, how it impacts them and how do we show up, right? Because in the confusion, we found opportunity.
Yeah.
And by the second day, we were actually telling people what should happen.
Telling your clients.
Yeah, and because no one had a plan.
Yeah.
And everyone was still shocked.
Yeah.
We could get in and be the calm. And I think that's what entrepreneurship is. And when people are complaining about one thing, you find a solution in it.
Yeah.
When people are scared or fearful of something, you find a solution and an opportunity.
Yeah.
A funny story that we ended up actually doing the communication for the presidency for COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, remember those graphs that were colorful and all the communication after family meetings. But even in that hardship, we had to find opportunity. And that's what I've loved about entrepreneurship, we usually say with my business partner, if like a war would break out now, we probably would be the guys buying the tank and bulletproof vest to go to meetings. Because that's what really has been the driver for our success. Amongst all the challenges that we've had and that we continue to have, it's just that spirit of going on.
But in your early days, just tell me about whether you encountered any challenges to a point where you felt like giving up, because I think it's very inspiring, and you often focus on the successes and the outcomes, but it's really the challenges that made those successes. Can you just share a little bit about what those challenges were, and if you ever felt like giving up?
Well, I'm not the giving up type.
Okay.
I'm not the giving up type, but there's been very, very hard times. There's been extremely hard times. But I think having a partner and being faith-based has always been an advantage. I think sometimes giving up is a symptom of not believing in a higher power. So in the hardest of times, in any aspect of my life, I know where to go, and that's God. And because we both have such a high sense of belief, and because we also believe that this is not only a business, but it's fulfilling our purpose, and it's a vision that was given to us. We kind of know God has our back all the time, because He's taken us this far. So in a business, it's always hard. In different stages of a business, there's always going to be some sort of difficulty. Even now. When people drive past our offices, when they're in their offices, it looks fancy, it's nice. But what is happening is a growth that needs to be managed. Attention that needs to be managed, discipline that needs to be managed, a level of humility that needs to stay, you know, and we constantly had problems, especially at the beginning, you know, like normal businesses, like your cash flow problems, you know, client payment problems, like any business would go through. But we would always, even just start up thing. I had to sell a house to invest in the business and so the business could grow. So there's never been a time where I've seriously considered it, but there's been a feeling that I needed to fight it. You know, like I fought quitting more than thinking about quitting. Because I mean, you know, we've got degrees, we've got opportunities. Like I think the biggest offense, flattering offense, by one of our competitors was the offer of employment. Right, with the a sign-on package that you know I didn't have at the time in my bank account. So you know when you've got like advisors in hardship, and they're like, here's international company. You can write your own salary. You can get the sign-on bonus, and they were negotiable even. It was hard, you know, and especially you know starting a family. Now you've got advice that says, you know, stop the suffering, you know, because you never know if it will work out or not. But this is a guaranteed check. It's a company that has been there for 40 years. You can go live in New York or wherever. They've got offices around the world. But because the vision and the belief was always more powerful than the money, I knew we had to carry on. But you asked of the times where I nearly quit. I think that's one of the times I got really close because it was comfortable to. But I won't say who the company is, but it's one of the big ones. The satisfaction of growing and even beating them on pitch lists is satisfying because it proves that sacrifice was worth it. You know, because you know the competitors try to break you in many ways. You know, and that's why I value my partnership with Z so much. You know, there's always something. So I think they saw that our unity was part of our superpower. So I don't know why they thought I was the greedy one. They thought I was the easy target. I'll fall for money. And saying no satisfied me because it confirmed my belief in the vision that we still are growing.
So this business approached you. They were approaching you in essence to say, here's a check, here's a sign-on, here's your salary, here's your benefits. Did they see that you were struggling at the time, or they just wanted to take you guys out?
At the time, we weren't struggling. We just won.
Okay.
You know, but there were many struggles before that. You know, but I think what triggered it is that we won one of their biggest clients. Now, traditionally, you'll see that agencies that start. It's cheaper to buy off one person than have a loose cannon agency that could just pop up.
Loose cannon.
It's uncontrollable. It's and especially a young, hungry agency that has all the recipe to beat you, and they already have. It is already public. So what you want to do is stop that. Because down the line, which it kind of already is, it can cost you more. So they could have paid me anything, because at the time of then, destroying Avatar was more valuable than having an Avatar that is still independent.
Yeah, yeah.
So from trying to buy us as the agency, from trying to split us by offering money and so on, from giving us bad publicity, from saying things, from spreading rumors. And I think our truth has always been the work. You know, I'm not, you know, I've been in business for so long. I've heard so many things about me, about my business partner, about our company. But we just respond with the work.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all we can do. You know, that's all that is in our control. So a lot of things have happened over the years. But that belief of creating an agency for Africans by Africans remains.
So how long was that time period between the time that you started to the point where you felt, okay, now you guys have arrived? I mean, barring the humility, but whether that point is when you were offered that big check or when you won your first major deal, where you felt that, you know what, now there's no looking back. Like how long was that time period?
I think winning SAA in our third year was pretty significant.
Okay.
And winning all the awards that we've won over the years, they're quite significant, because they are signals that you are going in the right direction. You know, and they're signals that a panelist sat and looked at your business, looked at your financials, looked at the way you work, and thought you are worthy of an award. So in our heads, we haven't made it. In our heads, I always feel like we're starting out. I don't feel like I'm fully out the blocks yet. So I do think that moment is probably still coming. But over the years, winning your clients, employing more people, growing the company has been significant. You know, but the concept of making it for me is too much of an end goal.
Yeah.
You know, the concept of comfort, when we were comfortable, when we had more retainers, when we were, so probably about the third year we were good. But for me, until Avatar is globally recognized as a brand of its own, it's still far from that. You know, until we can physically say that the mission of our strategy is achieved, is still very far from that. So, and that keeps you hungry, you know, and that keeps you, as you saw, I was late, that keeps you in meetings. That physically keeps you in meetings, that keeps you interested in your business, because the danger with making it is that your mentality can change. And when you change the same mentality that made you make it, then that's a very dangerous place. I think it's Steve Jobs that says, stay hungry, stay foolish. That sounds like a simple thing to say. It's staying hungry and staying foolish, you see all the opportunities in it, you know, and you grow from it. So I've never really had the concept of making it. I think we always have to remain in our humility so that we can see. I think the illusion of making it can blind you from a lot of things.
Where's the future of Avatar going?
Global.
Global. What do you mean by global?
Global impact. So not global physically, but global impact. So how are we playing in the global space in impact? How has the business impacted the advertising and media industry globally? And that's where it's going to represent African creativity in a significant way globally. And as I say, you can do it from here. So it's not I think the old school thought and way of growth was, I need to have 52 offices.
Yeah.
But if I can have a bigger impact in 52 regions, that's where we're going. So liberating African creativity for the world is something that we take very seriously. And it's something that we prescribe to our clients, and it's something that we hold dear, because if this is the birth of humankind as documented by historians, it's also probably the birth of creativity. So how has that changed along the way, and how do we reclaim that? And who's the champion of that? So championing African creativity is where it is for Avatar. But on a practical level, maintaining the growth, and growing more, is the immediate goal. You know, we pitch a lot, we win a lot, but it's also always balancing clients and making sure that you've got a variety of clients that serve your purpose and are aligned to your ambition and principles.
Do you pitch to clients that are based overseas directly?
Yeah. So we've started being invited for a lot of global pitches. Again, especially from China.
How's your Chinese?
We've had people, it's just terrible.
So like you have to pitch in Chinese, right?
No, we don't.
And
so,
you don't pitch with a translator?
We sometimes have.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we sometimes have.
Yeah.
But I think that market has realized that they need the insight, and they've also figured out that it's much cheaper to do your global creative from here. Because I don't think they're attached to where it comes from. As long as there's good quality at a good price, it's good to go. So we've been invited for a few global pitches, which I like, because again, it's aligned to our strategy.
And it's not on Teams. You physically have to go there.
It's mostly on Teams.
Oh, really?
My business partners had to go there a few times. But it's physically on Teams, mostly. Of some of the people that we've worked with, we've never met in real life. But the work is there. I mean, deploying a campaign in Russia, and I've never been to Russia personally, but
you want to go to Russia?
Partnership. Hey, I've been to stranger places.
I've been to Russia.
Is it lovely?
It's very nice.
I'm sure it looks nice.
It's very nice. In fact, I went to Russia in 2012.
Oh wow!
To go to the Euro final in Ukraine.
Okay.
But we decided to go via Russia.
Okay.
And it was, I think we needed a translator, because they're not very English friendly.
Oh, wow.
You know, even if you take the train to the city, and we went to Moscow.
Okay.
If you take the train into the city, everything is in Russian. Everything.
Yeah.
And we decided to take a detour via the train to Ukraine.
Okay.
So we went to Moscow and then took the train from Moscow down to Donetsk, and then that's where you watched the final.
That's lovely.
But this was in 2012, and Russia, I think, looks very different now.
So I've done Russian campaigns, but I've never been. No, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Okay. Would you follow the typical, say, global agency model of M&A? Are there considerations of buying agencies, whether it's on the continent or globally?
We have. In the 6 agencies that we have, it's only 2 that we've started ourselves.
Oh, okay. So you bought 4?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do each of them do?
So there is an events agency.
Okay.
There is a youth-owned...
Does it own nightclubs?
So no. It just does very corporate events. It's called Mela. So your CEO road shows and so on.
Yeah.
We've got a youth agency which you saw. They're actually in our office, called Fresh. Fresh AF.
And what do they do?
They do the same thing as us, but in a much cooler way.
Okay. They're much cooler than you. Maybe they still drive gold BMWs.
So we were very aware of that we are also aging, but we've got the experience.
You don't look like you're aging.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, your haircut's a bit cool, yeah? Or at least you...
From them.
Okay.
Yeah, so we knew that we needed to partner with people that are still in the culture. So you find that a lot of our campaigns run through them.
Oh, okay.
Just to culture check them.
Yes, yeah.
So that we can be cooler. So it's using our experience plus the coolness and just the freshness.
Yeah.
I mean, at one stage, I thought Uncle Waffles was a guy.
Most of us did. I also thought
so they were quick to correct me. So you have to remain in culture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we've got media agencies and PR agencies that we own.
Yeah.
So it was very important for us to start building this group because we wanted to make sure that when your bigger pieces of business come out, we've got an answer for them. And having a group with such diverse agencies, but we're very careful about who we partner and who we buy. So it takes some time. But over the years, we've invested in some companies and we've started our own.
Are there any other subsidiaries in the pipeline or any capabilities you're still missing?
They are, the advent of technology is giving us ideas to start businesses that probably didn't even exist 5 years ago. So tech is becoming very significant. So a group without a tech company or a tech subsidiary would not be future proofed. So as we grow and as we look at where the global markets are going and the trends that are going, we'll find opportunities to fill those gaps. And I think for us, what we're looking at strongly is the tech industry. I think a lot of our work will be tech based. We are looking at tools that make our lives even more efficient and faster, even in the creative process. We are training our staff on AI and not to fear it, but to use it, in campaigns, in the way we test out ideas, in the way we benchmark ideas. So being in acceptance of that, I think down the line, we are probably going to be in some sort of tech as well.
Okay. And I mean, how is tech actually influencing the industry when you mention AI? Are there trends that you could share?
Everything. Look, I think it's still at its infancy.
Yeah.
But because it's a knowledge-based tool, it gets better day by day. So the way we want to even operationalize our business in terms of just the efficiency, there's a lot of repeat stuff that you do in advertising. There's a lot of things that you do. So to automate that using AI makes sense. There's a lot of info and research that we need to do. So to rely on AI to do that only makes sense. And we are really, really looking at that for business efficiency and just business knowledge base, because we believe that that's really the future, So, I mean, even campaign lines, we can test them out, we can research, we can do all those things. So, it's becoming a very strong focus of our attention.
You see this logo?
Yeah.
This was AI.
Yeah.
It took 2 minutes. Not that I was lazy, but I was lazy. But
it's a good story as well.
I couldn't afford to go to you guys to ask me to build me a logo that would have cost me hundreds of thousands.
It's a good story.
But this, in a number of different iterations, I use Gen AI and ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude. And I eventually landed with this. But it was literally a question and answer. It was even the free version, actually. And then I thought to myself, this is exactly what I want.
And that's how we must embrace it to make our businesses evolve. Because if we are still trying to prove that the price for my logo is justified in this, that's not the argument. The argument is our business is going to significantly change. And how do we embrace that change, and how do we evolve the business? Because there's certain skills that we might not need or need in a different form. And so we've started that process pretty early because what you try, fear, and ignore usually comes and replaces you. You know, and what you embrace, even if it looks like it should be feared, I think you can get to a place where you protect your business. And I think AI is significant, and I think the conversations around it are quite significant, especially in our industry. You know, will we need certain skills? You know, will we need certain services? What type of companies are we going to be in 2 years, 3 years, and then what's the impact? And we significantly investing in that knowledge base.
You know, one of the big tech investors, I can't remember his name, he said the day of a one-man billion-dollar unicorn is coming. Because the number of people building unicorns are getting smaller and smaller. And it's most likely going to be in the AI space.
Definitely.
And there'll be one person, maybe it's me, I don't know, I'll keep generating these logos.
Let's go, bring me with.
The day of one person building a company that becomes valued at $1 billion or more is on its way.
Highly possible. Highly possible. I can believe that. The power of technology takes us beyond limits that we thought were the ceiling. You know, what you can do now with tech is incredible. And I think it needs fewer and fewer people, and that's where the opportunity is. You know, what it means for future employment and so on, that's a different argument. But what it means is that there's opportunity for people without the scale or even the investment, but there's the knowledge and the input to come up with something really amazing.
Veli, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. And what an amazing guest as our inaugural and first episode. I cannot wait for not only the next guest that we're going to be having a conversation with, but also the growth of your business. And I really look forward to continue tracking it and following it. And I wish you all the best. I think you're going to be an amazing success.
Appreciate it.
Stay hungry. Stay foolish. As Steve Jobs says, if your dreams are not big enough or don't scare you enough, you're not dreaming.
I'm very scared.
So keep dreaming. Keep dreaming.
No, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you engaging me, and I appreciate the chat. And I think it's not just an avatar story, but it's a story that everyone has in them. It's the bravery that needs to be awoken, and we need more entrepreneurs. It's not easy, but we need more entrepreneurs to change the economy, to grow the economy. It's our only way out.
And we need more individuals like you. It's one thing to be an entrepreneur, but in your opening, when I asked who you were, you said you are a father, you are a husband, and you're a man of God. So really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Been great having you.
Cool, man.
Thank you for watching this very first episode of Mzansi Unicorns. Stay tuned to watch more Mzansi Unicorns in future. If you enjoy this episode, comment, like, subscribe, and comment again, and like again. And we'll see you soon. Shap shap.